Hi, I'm Luann Worley, and I'd like to introduce our guest today, author Rhonda Gibb Heinricksen. And she is a wonderful author. I first fell in love with Betrayed a few months ago when I reviewed it. Most recently, we have One Fell Down. Rhonda, I'd like to start with just having everybody kind of get acquainted with the author.
I grew up in Rexburg, Idaho. My very first book is called Missing, and it actually takes place in Rexburg, so that's kind of good. I am the oldest of 7 kids. I really like the arts, the theater or music, writing, obviously, reading. Those are my favorite pastimes. I'll do whatever I need to do with my family, though. And I travel actually with my husband too. He loves to travel, and so we've been quite a few places around the world. I do try to incorporate where I've been into my books. One Fell Down takes place in New Zealand, so yeah, we've been there.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm envious. Share a couple of profound or special childhood instances in your life.
So when I was about 12, I'm guessing I was in a water situation where I felt like I was about to drown. And so I used that in Missing, actually, a little bit of that into there. But as far as other profound, amazing youth things, I don't know. I read a lot, had a dog for a while.
In 6th grade, you decided to become a writer. What caused this inspiration?
I was in my 6th grade class. My teacher was reading to us The Outsiders. And when she got to the end, when Johnny said to Pony Boy to stay gold, I just had this really strong feeling that I was going to be a writer. I really wanted to be a writer. And my purpose, I guess you would call it, was to encourage people to hold on to the goodness inside them. So that is something that's really important to me to try and do when I am writing. And so I've done a lot of magazine stuff prior to when I did books, but they're all pretty much trying to be good people. I guess that's my profound moment.
That's a good one. How extensive and what type of research do you do before you write an historical novel?
I do a ton of research. Betrayed is historical. So as far as that one goes, I did a lot of nonfiction books, online, credible sources. I'd go to biographies especially. I have several biographies, 3 of them, I don't know, I can't count, were related to Indians at the time, because that is in my book. And Niagara itself, because it takes place in Niagara Falls, and how people saw it at that point in time and their opinions about it. Doing journals. Journals are big because they give the voice of the people, their mindset, the way they think about things. It really helps with creating the voice for your characters too. I do have, I can't remember the exact date, but I think it's an 1869 map of Niagara Falls. I got that when I was doing this research from one of their, when you go on tour to a place, there's a historical site there. I can't think of what it's called, but from an actual credible place that has all those things, I ordered a map from them. So I used that when I was figuring out where all my characters would go and how long it would take them to get places, that kind of thing.
So you feel it's really important to be accurate with your historical facts when you're writing a historical novel?
I do. Readers are going to know. There are people out there who know the truth about areas and things, and like a Regency, there's so many people who've read Regencies, they know when somebody writes something that would never happen, or in any of the historical things, and that's just a way to turn off readers. One of my big fears is having an inaccuracy, and I try really hard not to, but it still could happen.
Other than romantic suspense books, you have written Heroes of the Highest Order chapter books. Tell us about them.
I love fantasy. I've written a lot of stuff for middle grade, and I just love fantasy areas. So that's where they are. They're a lot like the Magic Treehouse books, where you have characters who go back in time to learn about places and stuff. That's what is in Magic Treehouse. But in my books, they go back in time to learn about specific real life heroes, and the point is that they learn real heroic characteristics and then develop it into themselves so they too can become heroes. So it's a little boy and a little girl, brother, sister. And the first one is The Hidden Kingdom. And in that one, they go back to pioneer times and they learn from a true life pioneer. The second one is Mother Teresa is the one they learn from. So, that caring and kindness with other people. And the third one is about a man, a real life man, who helped to save as many of the Jews that he could.
So they not only teach history, but they have a lot of learning lessons in them.
Yeah, it's not like overkill, this is the moral of the story, not anything like that. But along the way, that's the point, is there to learn the great things that these people did and incorporating them into themselves.
What other genres would you be interested in writing that you haven't written so far about?
I'm really trying right now to also get into YA fantasy, young adult fantasy. I read a lot of that. And so that's what I want to write. I am currently about ready to submit a YA fantasy, working on that, trying to get it into the national market. That's my plan with that.
What type of a fantasy?
Well, I don't give too many details yet because I'm starting submission, but it's a combination of two lesser known fairy tales. So I'll say that. You asked about my process. I do use fairy tales in my figuring out the process of my story stuff. Even in Betrayed, there's an element of a fairy tale in that story.
What are your goals for in the next few years that you'd like to see fulfilled?
First one is to continue writing romantic suspense and having it published and hopefully sell well. I guess my next goal, which is kind of simultaneous, trying to find an agent that will help me to get into the national market with YA fantasy and possibly middle grade. We'll see where my interests lie as the future goes on. After that is all going well and I'm awesome and all that kind of stuff, then save my money, for the future, because, retirement comes. And while I don't intend to ever retire from writing, I love it. It's just part of who I am. It is good to save for the future.
Is there anything you'd like to share before we ask the final?
The only thing I could really think of, oftentimes people will ask me for advice for new writers. There are two of them. One is everybody who's a writer has something that they do that's already awesome. And so they should use that while they're learning the other parts of the craft. And eventually they may even get published because of those things they already can do really well. One of my things is, and I discovered this early on, is I always have this crazy ability to mix weird stuff together. It comes naturally to me, and so I just started using that in my writing. So it helps me to be more unique. Other people, there's authors I know, they're really great at characters, they're really great at dialogue. I'm pretty good at plot, so they're just use what you're good at and then learn the other things. My second bit of advice would be learn your craft first. So I guess along the way, it kind of goes with it, is study the market. Find out what's selling that kind of fits with what you do, and then incorporate it that. So for instance, when I was young, probably a teenager, I used to read a lot of like Victoria Holt and that kind of stuff. And I realize nowadays that's kind of like romantic suspense. And so I would put that interest that I had in those kind of books into creating what sells now, which is romantic suspense. After you figure all that out, to submit, to just gird up your loins, fresh courage take.
I have to say, that's one thing I found about your book. I was really impressed with your unique tale. And I loved the way going back to New Zealand and so forth. And I thought that was fantastic. I think this is a really good book.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
Okay, the last it's not really a question, but it is. I would like you to share one perk you have that most people aren't aware of.
Being an author, you tend to be pretty open somehow. Who you are kind of creeps into your writing. But one thing that very few people know is I really like hearing birds sing, especially when I wake up in the morning. And so that is my notification thing on my phone, is a bird chirp, because I just love that sound.
You said you've got another one coming up. When can we expect your next big project?
It is under contract, but they haven't told me when. So I
don't know when yet.
I don't know.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Rhonda, for
Sure.
joining me today. And I
Thank
hope
you.
to read a lot of more of your beautiful, wonderful works.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.